So this is the cool part. I actually didn't tell my wife this was coming. She's like, you got something? And it's from Rory. Thanks for all the ball markers over the years. And yes, I did get a green jacket because I figured we sort of won one. So sometimes I make markers for Rory wearing that. It's more of a goof. So really, I didn't intend to make them for anyone other than me and my kids. It was really during COVID. COVID shut everything down like everywhere else, but golf at Bethpage was amazing. For some reason, I decided I was going to start messing around with stamping wedges. But they're really difficult. They're hard to hit. They're expensive when you're buying wedges. So I decided to practice on little pieces of metal, and effectively didn't mean to make ball markers, but sort of was. F bogeys is my slogan, so I think that was the first one I made. Started giving them out to friends just to use, and everyone really liked them and said, why don't you try selling them on Etsy? I thought maybe I could buy a set of golf clubs with these. Like, that was my initial goal. Sell enough markers to buy golf clubs. And then it started really snowballing because Rob Lee, who most people don't know, but he does Sky Sports Golf, bought one. And then he tells me he's friends with Rich Beam and Laura Davies, Paul McGinley. I'm like, these are all people I grew up watching. Can I make them markers? He goes, that's what I would like. Rich then gave them to all of his friends, and his friends are Tommy Fleetwood and Rory McIlroy and Jon Rahm. He knows everyone. And that's really where it took off. I didn't expect to be selling them. I sure didn't expect professional players to be using them. Let me go back now. So it's 2021. The PGA is coming to Kiowa. But that summer, Rich kept telling me, like, every time he saw Tommy, he wasn't playing that great. So they go out for drinks or dinner on Thursday, and he says, you want to try my lucky ball marker, one of the markers I made him with his, nickname, and it says bogeys on the back, part of my language. And he says, sure, let's try it. And he shoots like a 63 on Friday, and he either makes the cut or misses by one, but he now thinks this marker has luck in it, and he won't give it back to Rich. So he's using it all summer, and Rich is like, okay, you got to make Tommy one. And at that PGA in 2021, Rich says he's going to give it to him. But I say, are you saying if I make markers for anyone, you'll give them to anyone? He goes, anyone you give me a marker, I'll put it in their hands. And I came up with one for Rahm. I came up with one for Phil that said Phil rules. Phil won, by the way. I don't think he used it. I made a couple for Tommy. I made for all the European guys that Rich knows, for Poulter, some Ferrari one, and I made one for Rory, who had recently had Poppy. And I kind of thought, if I put someone's kid on it, they're probably going to really like the marker. Lo and behold, Tommy uses his, but I don't see anyone else using theirs. I don't hear about it, anything. About a year later, my phone starts blowing up as I'm at a flag football game. It's like, you've got to turn on the golf. I go, I'm taping it. I'll watch it when I get home. I said, no, Rory's using one of your markers. And I'm thinking, that can't be. I made one for him a year ago. He's never used it. It can't be. How would you even know? So I go home, and he's messing with the line a lot. And they zoom all the way in where you can literally see the ball marker. Make out Poppy with the little hearts and all this stuff I had done. So sure enough, Rory was using the marker that he got a year ago, and he started playing great with it. But I was blown away when Rory was using it. Hard to imagine.
And how many have you made for Rory since then?
I can't imagine. 20, 30, 40. The one he won the Masters with, I never thought he would use. Most of the ones he uses say Poppy on one side and a Ryder Cup on the other. Something Ryder Cup. That's all he has ever asked for. Harry did tell me he likes Man United. Of course, I put that on the markers. But then I saw this interview he was doing. It wasn't before this Masters. I think it was last Masters. And he was going to see Butch Harmon. And it was a big deal because everyone, he's got to win this Masters. He was giving an interview, and he said to his daughter, I'm leaving, I'll be back in a few days. And she says, where are you going? And she goes, I'm going to take a golf lesson. And she says, but Dad, you already know how to golf. And he's like, you're right. And so I put that I put Manchester on the front, and on the back, I just put that quote. Never heard of him using it. He won the Players with the Poppy Ryder Cup, and I assumed he was never going to not use it. That's the biggest event he's won in 5 years. So I kept talking to Harry. I'm like, Ryder Cup, right? He goes, no. He used the one with the quote on it for the Masters, which I was shocked because I'd never heard of him using it. Obviously, it meant something to him, and he got his biggest win. And the funny thing was, 2 weeks before, Harry said, no more Manchester United, they stink. And then he wins with that one. It makes no sense to me, golf, I guess. And we also have a rule. Like, I used to buy the trophies before he plays. And Harry's like, no more markers of the event we're playing unless we win it, until we win. The event he was playing with Shane in New Orleans, it was Wednesday night, and Harry goes, you're never going to believe this. Rory just said, where's my Grand Slam marker? He's never asked for a marker directly. I'll go right now to FedEx. He goes, you don't have to go now, but maybe tomorrow, because he'd like to use it in this tournament. I did tell Harry the one thing before they won the Masters last year, not even this year. I said, when we get one of these, you got to bring the ball marker guy back to Augusta at some point. And he laughed. And then when he won this year, I re-forwarded that message from 24, and he didn't say no. So that's ultimately my goal. When I got into ball markers, it was just to trade them for invites. There were some amazing courses on Long Island, right? I don't have access to most of them. So if I could get invites with ball markers, that's really was super exciting to me. And I played Hazeltine with Rich. So I'm a portfolio manager by day. I manage clients' investments. I definitely am sort of handy, but not like I know how to build things. It's really all golf. If it has to do with golf, I'm interested. I do my own grips. By now, I've actually built up some strength in my arm, I think, and I have my ultimate wish is like, you know how Karate Kid paint the fence? Mm-hmm. If this made me putt better, this would be the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. If somehow hammering ball markers made me a better golfer, because I hammer a lot, it would be the luckiest thing I could do. And I think about that part a lot.
What does this upcoming Ryder Cup mean to you? Because not only are you making ball markers for guys that are going to compete, you also live a few miles away, and that's your own course.
I would say it all kind of ramped up because of that. And I remember when I started making ball markers thinking how cool it would be to get in with the Ryder Cup. And then when I got in with Rich and Rob, it was all Ryder Cup. And I actually went to Whistling Straits. Rich brought me to the Ryder Cup in Whistling Straits. The Ryder Cup's such a big deal to them that it became an even bigger deal to me. And then Bethpage was everything. So it's really all I was thinking about. And then I really dialed it up in 22 and 23 locally, just trying to get to everyone I knew. I'm like, you know anyone in the Ryder Cup? A guy that's a friend said, yeah, I have a guy. And somehow that Ryder Cup guy came back to me and said, look, we'd like to buy a lot, more than I like to make. I think it was 300 plus markers. I normally make like 10 or 12. Because like I said, I do this in my spare time. And I like to golf. It's golf season. I started doing this in winter. It wasn't supposed to be my weekends and nights during golf season. It was supposed to be when I have nothing to do. You know that headquarters they have in the sleeping lot? That's for the U.S. team. That's where they do meetings, and that's where a lot of the local stuff. So they said, do you want to decorate the inside? And I'm like, my ball markers are really small. I don't know how to decorate, but what are we talking about? I'll do whatever you want. So the ball markers I gave the guy originally when I met the Ryder Cup guy to try and get in was, welcome to Beth Rage. That was like one of my slogans. Just anger. We're gonna kill Europe, right? We came up with an idea of a ball marker mural almost. And then as I start making it, it turns out I'm gonna need like 400 ball markers to fill it. But in the end, this is on the wall of that building and looks great. Now is when it gets hard to believe, because every time you drive in, something new is occurring. Just seeing it, what we've all been waiting for, is awesome.
Will you have mixed emotions at the Ryder Cup? Having who do I cheer for?
It's going to be really jammed up. If Rory and Tommy and those guys are all using the marker and they win, it won't be as painful as it normally would be, I would think. If we lose at Bethpage, it'll be bad. Yeah, ball markers, it's hard for me to imagine where it's gotten to. The people I talk to, the people that are asking me for ball marker. I'm making a marker. I got to figure out the design for Justin Timberlake. Someone on Etsy says, I want you to make a marker for him. When I tell you what I want on it, you'll know who it's for. She goes, I want it to have the Larry Brown trophy, the Magic Johnson trophy. Who are we talking about, Steph Curry? She goes, yes. This is the ones I had made for the 23 Ryder Cup. Here's a couple I made. This one was for Tommy and Aubert, actually. Ryder Cup markers. I assume everyone's going to want their Ryder Cup markers. Markers are a hard to imagine pivot in my golf life. It's and I named my company Golf Life because my license plate was Golf Life. But I don't play as much golf because of these, but I'm not going to trade it for anything that would.